Yeah, for better or for worse, people have always talked about me. Unusual background. People hear that my mom was Puerto Rican, they think, oh, you grew up in the South Bronx? No, I grew up in Midtown Manhattan. We had a house in the Hamptons, and I was actually a debutante, believe it or not. Against my will, but I was. People have always talked about me because I just don't fit that average mold. I was condescended to, I was laughed at, I was criticized. As far as me becoming an animal rights activist, I had a dog when I was about 8 years old named Mr. Monday. And one day I came home from school, they had given my dog away. And that was, to this day, probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my whole life. That's probably when I became an animal rights activist right then. Of course, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they get angry at you, then they accept you.